Welcome to Hometown Banknotes, where economy, bank life, and hometown spirits meet. I am your host, Janice Spooner, a local banker and proud community advocate. On this show, we will share conversations that connect dollars to decisions and people to purpose. At NBT Financial Bank, we're rooted in community, growing your financial future, and this podcast brings that mission to life. Whether you're a business owner, a neighbor, or just curious about what makes our local economy tick, this is the space for you. Remember, at NBT Financial Bank, we're more than just your bank, we're your partner in progress. Welcome back to Hometown Banknotes. I'm Janice Spooner, your host for today, as well as Regional President for NBT Financial Bank. If you've seen my previous podcast, you know that it's really important to me that we talk about our economy, what's happening nationally, but all the way down to locally in the DFW area. This month is really important because we see some dynamics happening that we haven't seen recently, and it matters to you, your business, your family, and the decisions you are making. So we have a great guest today, but before we jump in with John Fletcher, the famous John Fletcher, we're going to talk about the economy. And it's really important to see what's happening with the Fed, caution, and the market confidence. Right now, there is a quiet disconnect that's been happening. The Federal Reserve is signaling caution, but until Friday, this most recent Friday, the market was still full steam ahead. And when those two don't align, that's when we really need to pay attention. So let's talk about the Fed. They've been fighting inflation. And while it has come down from the most recent highs, we're experiencing some challenges right now. And so the Fed had been cutting rates at the end and throughout 2025 and into 2026. However, they have taken a hard stance right now that they are waiting. Their decisions are data-driven, and they're cautioning about inflation. So rates are holding steady and they're not going to rush. So there have actually been some changes in what the optimism is for those future cuts. They're expecting maybe one more in 2026. So while we're waiting on that, the market has been going on. It has been continuing to climb, although there's been a great deal of volatility, including this past Friday, because of the Middle East crisis and what's going on with those challenges. But let's look at the key 6-month market highlights. The S&P 500 had some resilience through most recent 6 months, and now it has experienced some volatility, but that's what we're talking about today. The Dow Jones Industrial has indicating significant movement this past half year. It has fluctuated between 36,600 and about 50,500, with most recently in the mid-40s. Recent trends, March has seen increased selling pressure with major indices warning of sharp daily declines due to Middle East conflict as of this past week. So, performance trends, let's talk about it. The market has faced alternating periods of growth driven by optimism, but then pullbacks from inflationary fears and geopolitical instability. So what does this all mean for each and every one of us? In simple terms, expectations are being repriced. And even we're seeing that play out on a day-to-day basis. So it's important to stay connected and to watch what's happening so that you understand the decisions that you're making. You often hear me talk about education is so critically important. And that's not just for our local schools and colleges and universities, but also our business owners. Right now, it is very important to stay attuned to what's happening and how you can plan for the future. Because, as we know, when expectations get ahead of policy, something eventually has to realign. And that is our real life. I don't say this to create drama or crisis or, tremendous concern, but let's talk about how it's been applied. Recently, we've seen mortgage rates go up about 0.5% over the last 5 to 6 months. Now, don't get me wrong, 6.5% right now is the rate approximately, and that is still a really good rate. Maybe not relative to a few years ago, but overall throughout history, it is still a great rate. So if you're waiting on rates to go down, you're going to be waiting a little bit longer. But don't let that keep you from finding that home that you've been looking for. Business lending costs still remain elevated in comparison to what they were. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't move forward and have growth. What it does mean is you have to strategically plan for that growth. And as we get into our podcast guest today in a moment, you're going to understand what else you might be doing besides making sure your financials are current, making sure that your CPA and your accountant are taking care of your business needs and your financials to have those ready for that growth. People are still moving forward, so don't get left behind out of fear, because that's not what this podcast is about. It's about education and preparedness. Let's get into our guest for today, and that is John Fletcher. John, thanks for joining me today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my background was primarily in radio. We had a radio station in my family in Cleburne, and so started there, and that's where I gained the experience in community involvement. Because when you're, the media are charged to be serving the public interest. And so when you're doing that, you're doing everything for the town. You're doing the city council meetings, you're doing the track meets, you're doing the high school football, which is one of the great things of all. And so that was what got me started. And so the common denominator now, after I left radio, I formed my own ad agency, now a PR firm. And the common denominator with every one of my clients is they're all involved in their community. And so because of that, they, just like you, which you've done with NBT, people feel an alignment. They feel a relationship and a trust. And so that's a big part of what I've done. I'm involved with a few chambers of commerce. I really enjoy lining up the speakers for organizations, because one thing that, number one, the unselfish side of it is that it's service. The selfish side is that once you're calling somebody and you're not selling something, but you're asking them to gain an audience and to expose their own thoughts in their business, you're doing them a favor. And so suddenly people are returning phone calls that might not return your call normally. So that's always great.
Well, John, I have seen you in real life, real time, be a connector of people. I do want to talk about that a little bit. And, it's really, I see you as someone that builds relationships and helps make sure people are connected to one another. So what does that look like for you?
Well, first of all, to be a connector, it's intentional. You've got to want to do it. And the best connectors do it with no benefit to themselves. Sure, there's times that I'll connect my client with somebody else, sometimes two clients with each other, and that's great. But a lot of the things that I do have nothing to do with the client at all. Rather, I'm just helping people that need to be helped. And that's when people see noble motives, and when they see you doing the right thing for the right reasons, the right results tend to follow. And I just really enjoy seeing somebody flourish, prosper, because of a connection that I helped make.
That's so amazing. And I really want to get your insight today about being seen versus being known. Tell me your insights on the difference.
Well, when you're being known, you've earned that. And when you're being seen, it may be a little, once again, using that word intentional, where you're wanting to put yourself out in front of an audience. The best example I can give, Alan Samuels, the late car dealer, was one of my first clients. And so I'm in his office one time, and he's getting off the phone, and I said, "What's that about?" And he said, "I'm not going to tell you because you're going to want to get publicity." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, I did somebody a favor, and the blessing is that I wanted to do it, and I don't want anything out of it." And turns out what he had done, he gets a call from somebody, and they said, "This guy, Homer, has got cancer, needs a ride down to MD Anderson, needs to be down there, have a car for 6 weeks." And he said, so I gave him the use of the car for 6 weeks. And I said, "Well, Homer must be a good friend." He said, "I didn't know his name until today." I said, "Well, then the person who called you must have been a friend or a customer." I couldn't tell you their name either. He said, "I could do it." It was back before insurance had changed. And you can't do loaners very easily now. And he said, "It made me feel good to do it." And he said, "It takes away the blessing if you go out and get publicity for that. There's things that are worthy of publicity, but in that case, I want to be known for being a good guy." And so that's that. So you do that. There's times that it is good to be seen. It's good for me whenever I'm introducing a speaker at a Chamber of Commerce luncheon or at Rotary. That gives me some face time with people. But there's a balance.
Yeah. And would you say it is to become known more so reputation or consistency, or does it go deeper than that?
I think it's a little bit of both, because when they see you're doing it for the right reasons and that you're not being a showboat, that you truly care about others, that's what it's all about. And so I think that when they see that there's sincerity to it and an unselfishness, that it makes it more valuable.
All right, so let's talk about PR versus marketing. And those two words mean different things to different people. Um, you've worked with, as you said, some very high visible and known DFW companies and clients. But something that I've heard you talk about that really stood out to me was advertising, you say, is what you say about yourself versus public relations can be less predictable because it can also be what others say about you.
And well, and also public relations is what they also use the term earned media.
Oh,
So you're not necessarily paying for it. You may be paying somebody to help you get it there, but you're not buying the advertising. You get more value when you're in the content, in the newscast, when you're the story, than when you're the person advertising in the newscast. Because when you're the story, there's this certain extra bit of credibility with that. Dalworth Clean did um, a an extreme clean for a house for a woman whose child had cancer.
mm,
And so being in that story and putting Dalworth to the side of it as much, not Dalworth, but this woman's situation and how that she was helping. And by the fact there was an emotional connection and they could see it was sincere, that was valuable. And there's no commercial you could run that was going to bring the impact of that. And so you find the things that you can do, but once again, earned versus paid. Now, once again, paid media advertising, it's important to do. Number one, it supports the media, the animal, as we call it. The animal will be fed. And so why not feed the animal something that is in your best interest as well?
well, and I love what you do, and I follow you on social media, and we're in organizations together, so we get to rub elbow to elbow, and I get to see you in action. Um, if small businesses are struggling to find their way through becoming seen to then become more known,
Mhm.
how would they do that? How could they start?
You want to ask, first of all, what do I want to be known for? What is my why? What is my reason to be? And so what's my purpose in life? God gives us a purpose, and so
Yeah.
our call is to fulfill that. And so, one case recently was an independent auto shop in Colleyville, and they had convinced they had a friend that had done this in California, so they convinced a customer to give them a used car that had their use done. And so they took the car, they refurbished it, and then they had people apply for it, and they gave it away to somebody that had not just the greatest need, but the greatest purpose for it. Because it doesn't matter if you've got the greatest need and you don't have the money to buy the gas. So you have to be able to use it to go to school, to go to work, whatever it might be. Well, they did that, and it caught on. Then they did a second one, and then they called me. We did a third one back in November, and Channel 8 came and did a feature on it, Sean Giggy. And so he does the feature, and Star Telegram does a story, and Fort Worth Report does a story, and the Fort Worth, the Business Press does a story. And within 2 days, they have 6 cars for this year. And so they said, we're going to fix it. We're going to do it. We pay our folk, we're going to pay for all the parts and everything like that and get it done. But, our goal was to be able to do 10 within several years. And because I asked them what was their goal, and now they're doing that. And so they're doing it with their time and with some parts. And also some of their vendors are paying for some of those parts, but they became known for that. They didn't really have a public image before that. They were a good repair shop, but they didn't have anything beyond that. Now they're revered, they're respected, and people know who they are. And that's a little thing that you look at. So what are the things that you can do that set you apart? Once again, I love the term noble motives, doing the right thing for the right reasons.
Yes. And I've seen you work with some high-end names that I mentioned or referred to a moment ago. And with that purpose that each of those companies had, then I saw you find and I won't say a tagline, but a real message that was short and didn't get muddled. How do you go about that?
Well, Alan Samuels, when he came to us, he was your friend in the car business. And I love that. And matter of fact, we had him so involved in the community in Waco where we first met that Baylor University, like 4 years into that, did a research project. And it wasn't about us, but they said, what are the power names, the most known and respected names? Of course, number one was Baylor. Number two was Dr. Pepper. But instead of Emmett and Mars, who had been there forever, or some of these others, we were number three. And that was in like 4 years because we were everywhere. And as Alan said, I'm going to do the right things. And he said, I made sure to position myself, not that you buy cars from me and then I'll invest in the community. Instead, he said, I'm going to invest in the community first, and I hope that you choose to buy cars from me. And so he did the right thing for the right reasons. And so he used your friend in the car business, or come by and let's be friends. Classic Chevrolet, relax, enjoy the difference. Huff Hines has it. None of them are saying biggest, fastest, cheapest. They're just saying something that makes you feel comfortable and relatable and relevant to them.
Relatable. I like that because, in banking, I have great friends across many, many banks.
Sure.
And so it's intentional how we differentiate ourselves, but it's about the purpose and what we're trying to do in the community. And so it's the same thought process. What are we called to do? How are we making a difference in our community? And so I love watching you do that and lead by example in all that you do. So any other big names or let's just say stories?
Dave Thomas from Wendy's. Wendy's was my first big client, franchisee in Central Texas. And we would go to the annual convention. They didn't call it a convention. They called it the fall update. Dave just kind of liked it to be more personal sounding. This one year, Dave gets up and he's not happy. He's no longer the CEO. He was the founder and he was the talent for the TV commercials. And he said, all that I want is for y'all to have a consistent hamburger wherever I go. I didn't ask for it to be the best in America. I asked for it to be really good, but I want it to be the same taste, same experience in Columbus, Ohio, as it is in Phoenix, as it is in North Carolina, as it is in Fort Worth, Texas. And it's not right now. And he said, if you guys don't fix that, I'm going to pull myself off TV and you watch what happens to your sales. And I'm looking around and there's shock and horror on the faces of all these guys. And they're realizing that they have gotten lazy, and they fixed operations immediately because the last thing that they could afford to do was to have Dave Thomas off the air. And so the passion he had for his brand, because he saw that as an extension of himself. And he said, y'all are messing up my legacy. And so he did that. And Mattress Mac in Houston, Gallery Furniture, has been a fun client to work with. I did a couple projects for him. He's P.T. Barnum. I mean, he is the ultimate showman. He started off jumping on a bed saying Gallery Furniture saves you money. And now he's the largest single-point retailer in America. I mean, just incredible what the man does. Big-time philanthropist, bets millions of dollars on college basketball games, football games, or whatever it might be. One year he won $74 million. But with that, if you bought furniture during that time, that 3-month lead-up time, you got your money back for free. So when he made $74 million, he actually had a payout of 76. So he actually went $2 million in the hole. But look at all the exposure he received, and look at what he did to make his customers love him more. I can't believe that anybody would buy a stick of furniture in Houston, Texas, and not buy it from Mattress Mac, my friend.
Wow, that's incredible. So we've talked a lot about our purpose and with intention, marketing versus PR, social media. That's a whole different animal, I would say, and being involved in the community. From your perspective, what does it mean to be involved in community, and how should someone get started if they are not?
The easiest way is your Chamber of Commerce or your church. Because those are some connections that you can make. If you're brand new to a community, go join at the Chamber of Commerce. Volunteer. Ask if the secretary's gone during lunchtime, do you need somebody to answer the phone? What could you possibly do? Get on a committee, the golf committee, whatever it might be, the expo committee. Find something, because now you're working side by side, and people, they recognize your work ethic. They go, "Oh, look at Janet. She does all these great things. I mean, you're everywhere. My goodness. I mean, NBT has got to love you. You're the ultimate ambassador."
Oh,
And
thanks.
so, but when you first went into a chamber of commerce, you said, "Here's what I'm going to do. We're for real. We're going to sponsor things, but I'm going to give my time." And so they saw that, and it's one thing to make the promise. That's the great thing about Alan Samuels. He passed away 5 years ago, 6 years ago now. I was honored to do his funeral. We were really close friends. But he said, number one, no lying, cheating, or stealing.
That's right.
And number two, don't make a promise you can't keep. And he said, we will make some pretty good promises, but he said, we're going to keep them. And that's what he did. And that's why he was so trusted, because a lot of people don't trust car dealers, but they trusted him. And so what are the things that you can do to earn that trust? So one of them is to show up. And when you say, okay, the committee meeting is going to be at 10 o'clock on Tuesday, don't show up at 10:35 or on Wednesday, but rather, even if you need to call to make sure, okay, we're still meeting at 10 o'clock, right? And so show up, be active, and take some responsibility. And I love when I've had the chance when people couldn't get somebody to get something done. One of my clients had been trying for 2 years to get on the TV show How It's Made. And they made this really unique bison fiber that made jackets really warmer, ski jackets. And they tried for 2 years. And it took me 6 months, but I got them on. But the production group came down out of Canada. So they said, we're not going to come to Waco and just do a one-day thing. We're going to do a 4-week swing. So we need you to book us 20 shows. And so they said, we'll start on some of it. So I booked 11 of the 20. Some were my clients, others were not. Some I got zero compensation for, but my one client was a hero. And he said, I've been trying for years to do that. And then with him, I also write award nominations. And he's turned 90, and he's end of his career, wrote a memoir, 400 pages. He's a wonderful guy. We're talking to Texas Monthly now about a story on him, a feature story on him. But I was able to submit a nomination for him to receive his industry's Lifetime Achievement Award, and his family had been trying it for years and they couldn't get there. And the key point of an award nomination, and I love doing those, emotions trump everything. They have to fall in love with the person. That's the first thing. Secondly, tell the truth. You take full credit, don't embellish. Definitely don't lie, because they can see right through that. But they need to fall in love with the story, with the arc of what happened with that person. And as they do that, once again, they've been turned down for 2 or 3 years with this, but when I brought the emotional connection in with it, the guy who's over the program said, I just can't believe this guy did all these things. He said, he's getting it. He's getting the award. So instead of having to wait your turn 3 or 4 years, because they had been doing all that, we got it done. And because the story was compelling, and it was real. And that's an important thing.
So the common thread, the golden thread, I'll say, that I see through all of this is consistency and being involved, showing up, and as well as building that trust and confidence in others. And through all of that, a business or a person can be sustained in what they're doing and what their passions are. What do you think about that?
I agree that that's exactly right. I think that you've got to, people see your heart. They recognize your motives. If I was sitting here selling something and trying to be sleazy, you'd see it and you'd recognize it. I wouldn't be here. And if you weren't somebody that I respected, I wouldn't be here either. So there's an element of trust and respect that you have people that you deal with. And there's just something about doing something with no benefit for yourself. I explain to clients, the more that you do for no apparent benefit, the more benefit you receive, because you feel better about yourself. People trust you more. So don't do something and you go, okay, here's what's in it for me. Do things where there's nothing in it for you, and just look at the wow at how you feel. Once again, there's a blessing that you get. And I'd like to mention, I put out a morning devotional every day for 176 people, and it's called Run with Endurance. And Dave South, the voice of the Texas Aggies, started that. He still sends it out several days a week, and then I amplify that and all that. But it's my own little personal ministry.
That's wonderful. I think everyone should have one. I certainly do. And before we leave for today, I want you to share just a moment about your Friday show.
It's called 15 on Fridays with Fletch. It's my podcast.
Yeah.
And I thought, just like yours is, say, approximately 30 minutes, there's some that go 2 or 3 hours. I don't need to have that much content. I don't have that much wisdom to spout. And so I interview entrepreneurs, people who make a difference in their communities, like the folks that gave away the cars and are giving away more cars, and people that just inspire me. And so, yes, I have had the president of the Savannah Bananas on. Oh, whoops, that's my phone right there telling me that. And by the way, Savannah Bananas. There you are. So anyway, I'm just their biggest fan. And so, but I just like to have people that make a difference, that bring people joy. You know, when Baylor won the national championship in basketball, the coach immediately said the thing that made it work was that we have joy, Jesus, others, and yourself. And by the fact that we put our faith first, our teammates second, and our souls third, that's what made our success.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you being here.
It's been my honor. Thanks so much, Janice.
All right. Well, tell everybody where to find you.
Okay. Fletcher Consulting, Public Relations. You can go to www.thefletch.org. Fletcher, just like the corn dog, but unfortunately not related to them. I get the honor of paying full price retail whenever I go to the grocery store. Phone number 817-205-2334. I'm on LinkedIn. That's the one piece of social media where you can find me. And you'll see me involved in the HEB Chamber, the South Lake Chamber, also in Colleyville Chamber, downtown Fort Worth Rotary Club, and pretty much anywhere that's going to have a corn dog.
Thanks, John. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Janice.
Absolutely. Each month, we take pride in being able to support our community through our scholarship program for GCISD. It's such an honor to feature and select either a Mustang or a Panther of the Month and award them $500. Last month, we did not get the opportunity to celebrate with Landon Blewett just yet on my previous podcast, but we want to take today and feature her. We're so proud of her and her accomplishments and grateful to be a part, recognizing students like Landon who represent the future of our community. If you know a senior in GCISD, please direct them to our website, www.nbt.bank. We select alternating Panthers or Mustangs each month during the school year. We have 2 more to feature before the end of this school year, and then we'll start back up in August for the 2026-2027 school year. Now let's shift gears for just a moment and just celebrate the progress we're making in Grapevine at the new Grapevine branch for NBT Financial Bank. We are so excited. We're continuing to make strong progress, and it's been exciting to see this come to life. More importantly, it's been an incredible feel to support what we've felt along the way from our community. We're looking forward to keeping you updated each month as that progress continues, because it's going to be opened in just a few short months. So stay tuned. You can watch the progress on our LinkedIn, on my LinkedIn, as well as our website. John, thanks for being here today. I really appreciate you being a part of this podcast. And for our listeners, if there's one takeaway today, from my perspective, it's being seen is not the same as being trusted. So show up, make the commitment to your community and to others, even if in small ways, so that you can build that trust and build your business and your credibility for what you're trying to achieve in your community. Thank you for spending part of your day with us here at Hometown Banknotes. And make sure you follow us on our social media for the bank and myself. And until next time, stay well, stay connected, and stay a part of your community. Thanks for joining us on Hometown Banknotes. If you liked today's episode, be sure to follow, share, and like, and show someone how to make a difference in their life by understanding what's going on in the economy, their life, and in their community.